They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but for Gina Bennett, it was best served with champagne and a shocking secret. When her ex-mother-in-law, the Ice Queen Victoria Sterling, sent her an invitation to her ex-husband's wedding, Victoria thought it was the ultimate power move. She wanted Jaina there to watch him marry a 24-year-old heiress. She wanted to see Jaina broken, but Victoria made a fatal miscalculation. She didn't know that when she kicked Jaina out of the family 5 years ago, she didn't leave alone. Today, Jaina isn't just crashing a wedding. She is introducing the Sterlings to the 3 heirs they never knew existed. And trust me, the cake isn't the only thing getting cut today. The envelope was heavy. It was the kind of stationery that cost more than Gina's monthly rent. Thick, cream-colored cardstock with hand-pressed gold leaf edges. It smelled like them. It smelled like old money, arrogance, and Victoria Sterling's signature Chanel No. 5. Gina stood in the kitchen of her modest 2-bedroom apartment in Chicago, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the room. Her hands weren't shaking. She expected them to, but they weren't. She just stared at the calligraphy. Mr. Liam Sterling and Miss Jessica Calloway request the honor of your presence. Jessica, Gina whispered, testing the name. She was the one he'd cheated on her with, the daughter of a tech mogul, young, blonde, and uncomplicated. Everything Gina apparently wasn't. 5 years ago, she was Jaina Sterling. She was the dutiful wife trying desperately to navigate the shark tank that was the Sterling family dynasty. Liam was the golden boy, the CEO in waiting of Sterling Industries, and she was the scholarship student he'd met in college. The mistake. She remembered the night it ended, like it was burned into her retinas. It was raining, a cliché she knew, but the universe had a sick sense of humor. Victoria, her mother-in-law, had sat in the drawing room of their Hamptons estate, sipping tea, while Liam stood by the window, refusing to look at Jenna. "We offered you a settlement, Jenna," Victoria had said, her voice smooth as glass. "Take it. Sign the papers. Admitting you're infertile is nothing to be ashamed of, but Liam needs an heir. The Sterling legacy cannot die with you." That was the lie they told themselves. They had been trying for 2 years. No luck. The stress, the pressure, the cold hostility from Victoria, it had all taken a toll. But Liam didn't fight for her. When his mother handed Gina the prenuptial dissolution papers, he just swirled his scotch and stared at the rain. "It's for the best, Jaina," he had said. That was the last thing he ever said to her. She signed. She took the settlement, which was a pittance compared to their billions, but enough to start over. And she left. She drove her beat-up Honda out of those iron gates and never looked back. But the universe wasn't done with her. 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized, alone in a new apartment, fighting a flu that wouldn't go away, she took a test. Then she took 5 more. Positive. She went to the doctor, expecting a miracle. She got 3. Triplets, the sonographer had said, her eyes wide. Spontaneous triplets. It's incredibly rare. Gina remembered sitting in her car in the hospital parking lot, the ultrasound photo clutched in her hand. Her first instinct was to call Liam, to tell him they finally did it, to tell Victoria she was wrong. But then she remembered the coldness in his eyes. She remembered Jessica Calloway's giggling voice in the background of his calls those last few months. If she told them they wouldn't take her back, they would take the babies. Victoria Sterling would unleash an army of lawyers to prove Gina was unfit, to take custody of the heirs and banish her to the sidelines. So, she made a choice. She chose silence. Now, 5 years later, the invitation lay on her counter. Why invite her? Why now? She flipped the card over. On the back, In Victoria's distinct, sharp handwriting was a note. "Do come, Gina. It would mean so much to Liam to have your blessing. Let's show the world we can be civilized adults. Or are you still too fragile?" It was a dare. She wanted to rub Gina's nose in it. She wanted to parade Jessica, young, fertile, rich Jessica, in front of the barren ex-wife to show the high society circle that the Sterlings had upgraded. She wanted to humiliate Gina one last time to secure her narrative. "Mommy." Gina turned around. Standing in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes, was Leo. Behind him, holding a stuffed dinosaur, was Sam, and peeking out from behind, Sam was Maya, her curly hair a chaotic halo, her triplets, her life. They had Liam's eyes, they had the Sterling jawline, but they had Gina's heart. "What's that?" Maya asked, pointing to the shiny envelope. Gina looked at the invitation, then at her beautiful, chaotic, secret children. A slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. Victoria wanted a show? She wanted to talk about heirs and legacy? "This," Gina said, crouching down to hug them, "is an invitation to a party. A very fancy party." "Can we come?" Sam asked, his eyes lighting up. She looked at the date. The wedding was in 2 weeks at the Sterling estate in Newport. "Yes," she whispered, feeling a fire ignite in her chest that had been dormant for 5 years. "You're the guests of honor." The Sterling estate in Newport, Rhode Island, was less of a house and more of a fortress disguised as a palace. It sat on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic, a sprawling expanse of white stone and manicured hedges. Gina had rented a large SUV for the occasion. They were parked just down the road, waiting for the right moment. "Remember what we practiced?" she asked, turning to look at the 3 of them in the back seat. Leo tugged at his tiny tuxedo bow tie. "Be polite, don't run." "And stick together," Sam added, looking dapper in his matching suit. Maya, wearing a dress of pale gold silk that Gina had commissioned specially for this day, nodded solemnly. "And smile like Grandma." Gina laughed. "No, smile like you're having fun. Leave the scary smiles to me." She checked her reflection in the rear-view mirror. She had spent a significant portion of her savings on this appearance. She wasn't wearing black. That would look like mourning. She wasn't wearing white. That would be desperate. She was wearing emerald green, a floor-length, backless satin gown that fit like a second skin. It was the color of money, the color of envy, and coincidentally, the color that made her eyes pop. Her hair, once kept in a modest bob Liam liked, was now long, honey-colored, and styled in loose, glamorous waves. She didn't look like the broken ex-wife. She looked like a woman who had won. "Okay," she breathed. "Let's go." They drove up to the main gate. Security was tight, as expected. A burly man with an earpiece stopped the car, holding a clipboard. "Name?" "Gina Bennett," she said, handing him the gilded invitation. "And guests?" He scanned the list, paused and looked at her. His eyebrows shot up. "Bennett? Ah, right. The ex-Mrs. Sterling. Just Miss Bennett is fine." He looked into the back seat. His eyes widened slightly when he saw the 3 children. He looked back at her, then down at the list again. He clearly wanted to ask, but his training forbade it. "Go ahead, ma'am. Valet is at the main entrance." As they rolled up the long, winding driveway, the scale of the event became clear. There were hundreds of guests. She recognized senators, movie stars, and business tycoons milling about on the great lawn. A massive marquee tent was set up for the reception, but the ceremony was taking place in the sunken garden. The valet opened her door. She stepped out, the sea breeze catching the hem of her dress. She took a deep breath. "Okay, troops," she said, opening the back door. Showtime. She lifted Maya out first, setting her on the pavement. Then Leo. Then Sam. A hush started at the nearby tables and rippled outward. It wasn't instant, but it was fast. People were sipping champagne and gossiping, and then, one by one, they turned. First, they saw Jaina. The whispers started. "Is that Jaina? She looks incredible. I thought she moved to Europe. Why is she here?" Then they saw the children. The silence that fell over the entrance was deafening. It wasn't just that she had brought children to a no-kids wedding, though she ignored that rule. It was the faces of the children. Leo, Sam, and Maya didn't just look like Liam. They were carbon copies of him at that age. The dark hair, the specific curve of the nose, the piercing blue eyes. They were undeniable. Jaina held Maya's hand. Leo and Sam walked on either side of her. They walked down the limestone path toward the garden entrance, like royalty claiming a throne. At the entrance to the seating area stood the welcoming committee. And there she was, Victoria Sterling. She was wearing a silver dress that cost more than a house, her posture rigid. She was laughing at something a bishop was saying, her back to Jaina. "Hello, Victoria," Jaina said, her voice projecting clearly over the quiet murmurs of the crowd. Victoria froze. She turned slowly, her plastered-on smile ready to deliver a cutting remark. "Jaina, I see you decided to—" Her voice died in her throat. Her eyes went to Jaina's face, then dropped to her hand, and then to the 3 children standing beside her. Her face drained of color so fast Jaina thought she might faint. She clutched her pearl necklace, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Standing next to her was Liam's father, Robert. He dropped his champagne flute. It shattered on the stone, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence. "Jaina!" Victoria gasped, her voice trembling with a mix of horror and fury. Who are these?" Jaina smiled, the same dangerous smile she had practiced in the mirror for 5 years. "You invited me, Victoria. You said it was important for the family to be together." She gently pushed Leo forward slightly. "So, I brought the family. Say hello to your grandmother, kids." "Hi, Grandma." The 3 of them chirped in unison, their voices innocent and sweet, slicing through the tension like a knife. The crowd erupted. The whispers turned into a roar. Phones were coming out. Victoria looked like she was having a stroke. She stepped forward, hissing under her breath. "Get them out of here. This is a wedding, not a daycare. Whose bastards are these?" Jaina didn't flinch. "Careful, Victoria. You know how much you care about pedigree." She looked her dead in the eye. "They aren't bastards. They were conceived 3 weeks before our divorce was finalized. Legally, they are Sterlings. Biologically, well." She looked past her, toward the altar where Liam was standing, joking with his best man, oblivious to the nuclear bomb that had just detonated at the entrance of his wedding. "I think they have their father's eyes, don't you?" Victoria grabbed her arm, her nails digging into her skin. "You are lying. You are a liar and a fraud. You were barren. That was the whole point." "I was stressed," Jaina said, pulling her arm away. "And once I left this toxic house, nature took its course." "Security!" Victoria shrieked, losing her composure entirely. "Get her out, now!" "I wouldn't do that," a deep voice rumbled from behind them. They all turned. It was Arthur Pendergast, the Sterling family's oldest attorney and the executor of the family trust. He was an ancient man, but sharp as a tack. He was staring at the triplets with a look of utter fascination. "Arthur," Victoria snapped, "remove this woman." "If these children are Liam's," Arthur said slowly, his voice carrying weight, Then, under the terms of the Sterling Grandfather Trust established in 1955, they are the primary beneficiaries of the estate. If you remove them, you are removing the majority shareholders of this event. Victoria looked at Arthur, then at Jaina, then at the kids. The trap had snapped shut. "Shall we find our seats?" Jaina asked sweetly. "I believe the bride is about to walk down the aisle. I wouldn't want to miss the look on her face." She walked past a frozen Victoria, her triplets in tow, and took a seat in the third row, on the groom's side. The organ music started. The wedding was about to begin, but the real show had just started. The string quartet began to play Pachelbel's Canon in D. It was a cliché choice for a wedding that cost $5 million, but Victoria Sterling had always preferred tradition over originality. The atmosphere in the sunken garden was electric, but for all the wrong reasons. Usually, the air at a wedding is filled with romance and anticipation. Today, it crackled with suppressed scandal. Jaina could feel the eyes of 300 guests burning into the back of her neck. Every time she shifted, heads turned. "Mummy, I'm thirsty," Sam whispered, tugging on her emerald sleeve. "Shh, baby." "Not now," she soothed, handing him a small juice box she'd smuggled in her clutch. "Watch the show." At the altar, Liam stood waiting. He looked older than Gina remembered. There were lines of stress around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. He was fidgeting, adjusting his cufflinks, running a hand through his hair. He hadn't seen them yet. The layout of the garden meant the groom faced the aisle, and they were tucked into the third row, slightly obscured by a massive floral arrangement of white hydrangeas. But his best man, a hedge fund manager named Todd, had seen them. Todd kept glancing over Liam's shoulder at Jaina, his jaw practically on the floor. He whispered something to Liam. Liam shook his head, annoyed, and whispered back, likely telling him to focus. Then, the music swelled. The guests stood up. Jessica Calloway appeared at the top of the stone staircase. Jaina had to admit she looked stunning. She was wearing a custom Vera Wang gown, a cloud of tulle and lace. She looked like a princess. But as she began her descent, smiling that practiced, media-ready smile, her expression faltered. She realized no one was looking at her. The guests were standing. Yes, but their bodies were angled toward the third row. They were looking at the woman in the green dress and the 3 miniature Sterlings. Jessica's smile tightened. She reached the bottom of the stairs and began the long walk down the aisle. Her eyes scanned the crowd, looking for the source of the distraction. Then, she saw Jaina. Jaina offered her a small, polite nod. Her step faltered. She actually stumbled, her heel catching on the limestone. A gasp went through the crowd. She recovered quickly, but the damage was done. Her face flushed a deep, angry crimson. She looked from Jaina to the children, and Jaina saw the moment the realization hit her. It was like watching a glass vase shatter in slow motion. She reached the altar, breathless and furious. She didn't look at Liam with love. She looked at him with panic. "You made it," Liam whispered to her, taking her hands. He was still oblivious. "You look beautiful." "Turn around," Jessica hissed. It was loud enough for the first 5 rows to hear. Liam frowned. "What?" "Turn. Around." "Liam," she ground out through clenched teeth. "Look at your mother's guest." Liam, confused and looking slightly terrified by his bride's tone, slowly turned his head. He scanned the front row. He saw his mother, Victoria, who was staring straight ahead, pale as a sheet. Then his eyes drifted back. He saw Jaina. His eyes widened. He blinked as if he were hallucinating. "Jaina?" he mouthed. Then, Maya, who had been getting bored, decided this was the moment to be helpful. She stood up on her chair to get a better view. "Look, Mommy." She pointed a tiny finger directly at Liam. "It's the man from the picture. Is that Daddy?" Her voice was high, clear and bell-like. It carried perfectly in the garden's acoustic bowl. The silence that followed was absolute. The string quartet stopped playing abruptly, the cellist's bow screeching against the strings. The officiant, a high-ranking bishop, looked like he wanted to be anywhere else on earth. Liam felt his knees give out. He actually staggered back, gripping the altar railing for support. He stared at Maya. Then he looked at Leo, who was frowning and trying to fix his bow tie, the exact same way Liam did when he was nervous. Then he looked at Sam. 3 faces. His face. "Oh my God," Liam whispered. The microphone on his lapel was still on. The sound boomed through the speakers. "Oh my God." He took a step off the altar. "Liam!" Jessica shrieked, grabbing his arm. "Where are you going? We are in the middle of a ceremony." "Jessica, let go," Liam said, his voice shaking. He ripped his arm away from her grip. He walked down the 3 steps from the altar and into the aisle. He walked toward them like a man in a trance. The guests parted for him. Jaina stayed seated, calm, her hands folded in her lap. She felt a fierce protectiveness surge through her, but she tamped it down. She needed to be the rock. Liam stopped at the end of their row. He was 5 feet away. He looked at Jaina, his eyes filled with a mixture of horror and wonder. "Jaina," he choked out. Are they? "They're 4.5, Liam," she said softly. "You do the math?" He did the math. The color drained from his face. "But you said—" "I said nothing," she corrected him. "Your mother handed me papers. You turned your back. I left. I found out 2 weeks later." Liam looked at Leo. Leo looked back, unimpressed. "Who are you?" Leo asked. Liam let out a sound that was half sob, half laugh. He fell to his knees, right there on the grass, putting him at eye level with the children. He reached out a hand, trembling, toward Maya. He couldn't say it. "Liam!" Victoria's voice cut through the air like a whip. She had marched over, composing herself with terrifying speed. "Get up. Get up immediately. You're making a scene." "A scene?" Liam looked up at his mother, tears streaming down his face. "Mother, look at them. They're mine. I know they're mine." "We don't know anything," Victoria hissed, trying to block the guest's view with her body. "This is a trick, a ploy to get money. She's been planning this for years." "I don't need your money, Victoria," Jaina said, standing up. She was taller than her in her heels. "I have my own business now. I'm here because you invited me. You wanted to show off? Well, here we are." At the altar, Jessica Calloway had had enough. She threw her bouquet onto the ground. "Is anyone going to marry me?" she screamed. "Or are we going to play happy families with the ex-wife?" Liam looked at Jessica, then back at the triplets. He looked torn, his brain clearly short-circuiting. I can't," Liam stammered. "I can't do this right now. I need to know." "If you walk away from this altar, Liam Sterling," Jessica threatened, her voice icy, "my father will pull the funding for the merger. You know that." It was the ultimate ultimatum. Love, or at least shock, versus money. The Sterling way. Liam stood up. He looked at Jessica. Then he looked at the children again. He looked at Jaina. "I need a paternity test," Liam said, his voice hardening. "Right now. Don't be ridiculous," Victoria snapped. "We have a reception to attend." "No!" Liam shouted, startling everyone. "No reception, no cake, no speeches until I know if I have 3 children. Mother, get the doctor. Get the legal team. We are going to the library." He looked at Jaina. "Jaina, bring them." Jaina smirked internally. The wedding wasn't just ruined, It was obliterated. "Come on, kids," she said brightly. "We're going to see the big house." The library of the Sterling estate was a room that smelled of old leather, cigars, and ruthless decisions. It was where Grandfather Sterling had built the empire and where Gina had signed her divorce papers. Now, it was a war zone. The guests had been ushered to the reception tent with open bars and nervous apologies, but the key players were locked in here. Gina, the kids, Liam, Victoria, a seething Jessica, still in her wedding dress. Jessica's father, Mr. Calloway, a man who looked like a bulldog chewing a wasp, and Arthur Pendergast, the lawyer. The triplets were sitting on a velvet sofa, happily eating cookies that a terrified maid had brought them. They were oblivious to the fact that they were currently dissolving $1 billion merger. "This is entrapment," Victoria paced the room, her silver dress swishing furiously. "She waited 5 years. 5 years, Liam. Why? To humiliate us." "I waited," Gina said calmly from the armchair where she was sipping sparkling water, "because you told me that if I ever tried to contact Liam, you would bury me in litigation. You told me I was unfit to carry the Sterling name. I didn't want my children raised by nannies and traumatized by your coldness, Victoria. I wanted them to be happy." "Happy?" Liam stared at her. He was pacing, unable to sit still. "You kept my children from me, Gina. That's not noble, that's cruel. You gave up on me." She shot back, her voice losing its cool edge for just a second. "You let them throw me out like garbage because you thought I was broken. You didn't deserve to know. Enough!" Mr. Calloway slammed his hand on the desk. "I don't care about your sob story. My daughter is out there looking like an idiot. Liam, are we getting married or not?" "Not until we verify this," Liam said, gesturing to the kids. "The doctor is on his way," Arthur Pendergast said from the corner. The old lawyer was the only one who looked amused. He was reviewing a file, the grandfather trust. "But frankly, Liam, I don't think you need a doctor. The boy, Leo, he has the Sterling hairline and the ear shape. It's a dominant trait in your family line going back 4 generations. "Shut up, Arthur," Victoria snapped it. "If they are his," Jessica said, her voice trembling, "what does that mean for us? For the prenup?" Arthur looked up over his spectacles. "Well, Miss Calloway, it changes things considerably. The prenuptial agreement was drafted based on Liam having no heirs. If he has 3 living heirs, the trust activates immediately. The majority of Liam's non-liquid assets, including his voting shares in Sterling Industries, would be placed in a protective trust for the children until they turn 25. Jessica's face went white. "Wait. So he wouldn't control the company?" "He would be a steward," Arthur clarified, "but he couldn't sell, merge, or acquire without the approval of the trust's board on behalf of the children." Mr. Calloway's eyes narrowed. "So the merger, Liam couldn't authorize it?" "Not unilaterally. No," Arthur confirmed. The room went silent. The wedding wasn't just about love, it was a business transaction. The Calloway tech empire needed Sterling Industries manufacturing, but if Liam didn't control the shares, the deal was dead. Jessica looked at Liam. For the first time, Gina saw the calculation in her eyes. She wasn't looking at her future husband. She was looking at a bad investment. "You didn't tell me this," Jessica whispered. "I didn't know," Liam shouted. The door opened. A man in a suit carrying a medical bag entered. It was Dr. Evans, the family concierge doctor. He looked around the room, sensing the hostility. "I was told there was an urgent need for genetic verification." "Test them," Victoria ordered, pointing a manicured finger at the children. "And test her. I want to make sure she didn't just adopt some lookalikes." "Mummy, I don't want a shot," Maya whimpered, dropping her cookie. "It's okay, sweetie," Jaina said, standing up and moving between Victoria and the kids. It's just a little swab inside your mouth, like a lollipop. No needles. She looked at Liam. I will allow this, but only on one condition. You are in no position to make demands, Victoria spat. Actually, she is, Arthur interjected. She is the legal guardian of the potential heirs. What's the condition? Liam asked, his eyes fixed on Jaina's. If the test comes back positive, Jaina said, her voice steady. Victoria steps down from the board of directors, permanently. Victoria gasped. You insolent little... Deal, Liam said. Liam! Victoria shrieked. I want to know, Mother, Liam said, his voice cold. And if you drove Gina away, if you are the reason I missed the first 5 years of my children's lives, then I don't want you running my company anyway. And if they aren't yours? Jessica asked, hoping against hope. Then I leave, Gina said. I disappear. You never see us again. And I'll sign a statement saying I lied. Do it, Mr. Calloway grunted. Let's get this over with. Dr. Evans set up his equipment on the antique mahogany desk. It was a rapid DNA test, the kind used for high-stakes legal disputes or emergency medical situations. It wasn't cheap, but the Sterlings could afford anything. Come here, Leo, Liam said softly. Leo looked at Jaina. She nodded. Leo walked over to Liam. Liam knelt down. Up close, the resemblance was terrifying. It was like looking in a mirror through time. Liam's hand shook as he reached out to brush a crumb off Leo's lapel. Open wide, Dr. Evans said gently. He swabbed Leo, then Sam, then Maya, then Liam. How long? Jessica demanded. 45 minutes for the preliminary match, Dr. Evans said, placing the samples into a portable analyzer. 45 minutes. They sat in silence. The ticking of the grandfather clock was the only sound. The triplets, bored of the tension, started playing tag around the sofa. At one point, Sam tripped and fell near Liam's feet. Liam instinctively reached out and caught him. Gotcha, Liam murmured. Sam looked up at him. You have blue eyes, like me. Liam smiled, a genuine heartbreaking smile. Yeah, I do. Jessica saw that smile. She saw the way Liam held the boy. She stood up, her silk dress rustling. He's not going to sign the papers, she said to her father. Just wait, Liam said, looking up. Look at you, Liam, Jessica cried, tears finally spilling over. You're already playing daddy. You're not thinking about the merger. You're not thinking about us. They might be my kids, Jess. I didn't sign up to be a stepmother to triplets, she screamed. I didn't sign up to have my inheritance split 4 ways. And I certainly didn't sign up to have her, she pointed a shaking finger at Gina, in my life forever. The machine on the desk beeped. Everyone froze. Even the kids stopped running. Dr. Evans looked at the screen. He adjusted his glasses. He looked at the screen again. He turned to face the room. Well? Victoria demanded, her voice tight. Tell us it's a fraud. Dr. Evans cleared his throat. It is not a fraud, Mrs. Sterling, the doctor said. The probability of paternity is 99.99998%. Liam, you are the father. The room exploded. The beep of the DNA machine was the death knell of the Sterling-Calloway merger. Jessica Calloway didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She went unnervingly quiet. She looked at the screen that confirmed her fiancé had 3 children with his ex-wife. Then she looked at Liam, who was still kneeling on the floor, dazed, holding Sam's hand. Well, Jessica said, her voice devoid of emotion. That settles that. She turned to her father. Daddy, let's go. Jessica, wait. Liam stood up, panic finally piercing through his shock. We can work this out. It's a shock, I know, but... Work this out? Jessica laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. Liam, look at the math. You have 3 kids. You have a vindictive ex-wife who just humiliated us globally. And thanks to your family trust, you just lost control of your own company. I'm not marrying a powerless man with baggage. I'm a Calloway. We don't do messy. Mr. Calloway stepped forward, his face purple with rage. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling the bankers. The bridge loan for the factory expansion? Cancelled. The tech-sharing agreement? Void. And Liam? If I see you near my daughter again, I'll have you buried in lawsuits, so deep you'll need a snorkel to breathe. You can't do that, Victoria shrieked, rushing forward. The contracts are signed. There's a material adverse change clause, Mr. Calloway spat, and I'd say finding out the groom has a secret litter of heirs counts as a material change. He grabbed Jessica's arm. They marched out of the library without looking back. The heavy oak door slammed shut, shaking the portraits on the walls. The room fell silent, save for the hum of the air conditioner and the quiet chewing of Maya, who had found another cookie. Victoria Sterling looked like she had aged 10 years in 10 seconds. She turned slowly to Jaina. Her eyes were filled with pure, unadulterated hatred. You, she whispered, you did this. You ruined everything. We are ruined. Do you hear me? Ruined. I didn't do anything, Victoria, Gina said, standing up and smoothing her green dress. I accepted an invitation. You're the one who played games with people's lives. You breached the contract, Victoria yelled, lunging toward her. Liam stepped in front of her. Stop it, Mother. She destroyed us, Liam. The Calloway deal was the only thing keeping us afloat. What do you mean, keeping us afloat? Liam frowned. Sterling Industries is profitable. We posted record gains last quarter. Victoria froze. Her eyes darted to Arthur Pendergast, the lawyer. Actually, Arthur said, closing the file he was holding with a heavy thud, that's a discussion for the board meeting, which brings us to the wager. Arthur adjusted his glasses and looked at Victoria. The deal was clear. If the children are Liam's, you resign. I will have the papers drawn up by morning. I will not resign, Victoria hissed. It was a figure of speech. It was a verbal contract witnessed by the family attorney and the executor of the trust, Arthur said calmly. And frankly, Victoria, given the audit that is now automatically triggered by the activation of the heirs clause, resignation might be your best option. It looks better than termination. Victoria paled. She looked at Liam, pleading. Liam, tell him. Tell him I'm your mother. Liam looked at her. He looked at the woman who had manipulated his divorce, lied to him about Gina's settlement, and tried to deny his own children. You're my mother, Liam said quietly. But they are my children, and you tried to have them thrown out by security. He turned his back on her. Jaina, he said, facing her. He looked exhausted, broken and hopeful all at once. Please, stay. We have so much to talk about. The guest house is empty. Let me get to know them. Jaina looked at her triplets. They were tired. This environment was toxic. The air in this house was heavy with greed and anger. No, Liam, she said firmly. But they're mine. They are, she agreed. But you are a stranger to them. And right now, you're a mess. You just got left at the altar. Your company is imploding. Your mother is on the warpath. This is not the place for a family reunion. She picked up Maya. We are going back to the hotel. We're flying home to Chicago tomorrow. You can't take them, Liam panicked. I have rights. You have a positive DNA test and zero relationship, she reminded him. Don't threaten me with lawyers, Liam. Not today. If you want to be a father, you do it on my terms. You come to Chicago. You visit. You put in the work. You don't get instant access just because your blood is the same. She walked toward the door, gesturing for Leo and Sam to follow. Here is my number, she said, pulling a card from her clutch and placing it on the desk next to the DNA machine. Call me when you're done being a CEO and ready to be a dad. She walked out of the library, down the hall, and through the reception tent, where confused guests were still eating canapés, wondering where the bride was. As they walked down the driveway to their rental car, Leo looked up at her. "Mommy, was that the fancy party?" Gina laughed, a release of 5 years of tension. "Yes, baby, that was the party." It was weird, Sam decided. "Yes," she kissed his head. "Rich people are very weird. Let's go get pizza." 3 days later, Gina was back in her Chicago apartment. The wedding of the century disaster was all over the news. Page 6 ran the headline, "Air Raising, Secret Triplets Crash Sterling Wedding." There were paparazzi photos of her in the green dress, looking defiant. There were photos of Jessica fleeing in her gown. It was a circus, but inside her apartment, it was quiet. She was folding laundry when the buzzer rang. She checked the monitor. It was Liam. He looked different. He wasn't wearing a tuxedo or a power suit. He was wearing jeans and a grey sweater. He looked like the college boy she had fallen in love with before the money and the pressure twisted him. She buzzed him up. When he walked in, he didn't look around the apartment with judgment. He just looked grateful to be there. He was holding 3 large gift boxes and a bouquet of lilies, her favorite. Not roses. Lilies. He remembered. "Hi," he said, his voice raspy. "Hi," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "You flew coach?" "I didn't have a choice," he gave a grim smile. "The corporate jet is grounded. Assets are frozen." "Come in." He walked in, placing the gifts on the table. The kids were at school. It was just them. "Coffee?" she asked. "Please." "Black." They sat at her small kitchen table. He wrapped his hands around the mug like it was a lifeline. "Arthur finished the preliminary audit yesterday," Liam began, staring into his coffee. "And?" "You saved me, Gina." She frowned. "What?" "If you hadn't come, if I had married Jessica, the merger would have gone through. The accounts would have been blended, and I would have gone to prison." He looked up, his eyes haunted. "My mother. She's been embezzling from the Sterling Trust for a decade. Gambling debts, bad real estate deals. She drained nearly $40 million. She was cooking the books." Gina gasped. $40 million. The Callaway merger was her exit strategy. She was going to use Callaway's cash injection to plug the hole in the trust before the annual audit. She needed me to marry Jessica to cover her crimes. It all made sense. The pressure, the desperation, the reason she hated Gina. She wasn't just a poor girl. She was a financial liability because she couldn't bring a dowry to cover Victoria's theft. When the triplets appeared, Liam continued, the grandfather trust automatically locked down to protect the new beneficiaries. It triggered a forensic audit. Arthur found everything. The wire transfers, the offshore accounts, everything. "Where is she?" she asked. "She's under house arrest in Newport. The FBI is involved. She's going to jail, Gina." He took a shaky breath. "She tried to destroy you, and in the end, you were the one who stopped her from destroying the company completely. If the merger had happened, I would have been complicit." He reached across the table, his hand hovering over hers. "I am so sorry. For everything. For 5 years ago. I was weak. I let her whisper in my ear. I let her convince me that our marriage was failing because of the fertility issues, when really, she just wanted me to marry money." She looked at his hand, then at his face. She saw the regret. It was real. "I forgive you for being weak," she said slowly. But I don't forgive you for giving up. You didn't fight for me, Liam. I know. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for that. Not to get you back. I know I don't deserve that yet. But to be a father to Leo, Sam, and Maya. He pulled a thick envelope from his jacket pocket. What is this? I resigned as CEO this morning, he said. Her eyes widened. You what? I'm staying on as chairman of the board, but I'm handing daily operations to a new team. I can't run a company and fix this mess and learn how to be a dad at the same time. I'm moving to Chicago. He pushed the envelope toward her. This is a copy of the new trust arrangement. Arthur drafted it. It acknowledges the triplets as the sole beneficiaries. It also provides you with a monthly stipend, child support, backdated for 5 years. It's a lot of money, Gina. It's not a payoff. It's what they are owed. She opened the envelope. The number was staggering. It was enough to buy this entire building 10 times over. I don't want your money, Liam, she said, pushing it back. I made it work on my own. It's not my money, he said gently. It's theirs. Put it in a college fund. Buy a house with a yard. Please let me do this. She looked at the envelope. She thought about the struggle of the last 5 years, the late shifts, the clipping coupons, the fear of not making rent. Okay, she whispered. For them. And one more thing, Liam said. He stood up and went to the gift boxes. Can I be here when they get home from school? I don't want to be the scary man from the wedding. I want to be just Liam. We can start there. She looked at the clock. The bus was dropping them off in 20 minutes. She looked at the man who had broken her heart, but who had just dismantled his entire life to try and fix it. Okay, she said. You can stay. The door opened 20 minutes later. The thundering of small feet filled the hallway. Mommy, we're home, Leo shouted. They burst into the kitchen, backpacks swinging. They stopped dead when they saw Liam sitting at the table. Maya hid behind Gina's leg. Sam frowned. Leo crossed his arms. You're the crying man, Leo said suspiciously. Liam laughed, a soft, genuine sound. He got down on one knee, right there on her cheap linoleum floor, lowering himself to their level. I was crying because I was happy, Liam said. My name is Liam, and I brought Lego. Sam's eyes went wide. Star Wars Lego? The Millennium Falcon, Liam promised, pointing to the box. Sam took a tentative step forward. Then another. Gina leaned against the counter, watching. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. They weren't a couple. There was a lot of pain to work through. But as she watched Liam solemnly explain the importance of Chewbacca to a captivated Sam, she knew the secret was out. The drama was over. The real story was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the catastrophe at the Sterling estate. The world had moved on to new scandals, but Gina's world had been completely rebuilt. The morning sun streamed into her new kitchen. It wasn't a mansion. She still refused to live in the Sterling bubble, but it was a beautiful brownstone in Lincoln Park with a backyard big enough for 3 energetic 5-year-olds. Dad! Dad, look! Gina smiled as she watched Leo sprint across the grass, holding up a muddy earthworm. Liam was sitting on the patio steps, wearing a t-shirt covered in grass stains. The former heir to a billion-dollar empire, the man who used to panic if his tie was crooked, was currently letting Maya braid his hair while he inspected a worm. That is a very impressive worm, Leo, Liam said, with genuine seriousness. We should probably name him. Mr. Wiggles, Sam shouted from the sandbox. Mr. Wiggles it is, Liam agreed. She leaned against the doorframe, sipping her coffee. It hadn't been easy. The first month was awkward. Liam didn't know how to change a tire, let alone handle a tantrum. They fought. They argued about boundaries. He tried to buy their affection with toys until she threatened to ban Amazon deliveries. But he learned. He showed up. Every single day. He went to therapy. He stepped down from the high-life social circuit. He became, against all odds, a father. "You're staring," Liam said, looking up at her. He had a pink beret in his hair. "I'm just documenting the hair for blackmail purposes," she teased. He stood up, dusting off his jeans. "Go easy on me. I have a board meeting in an hour. I can't look like a My Little Pony." "About that," she said, walking out to join him. "Arthur called me." Liam's expression tightened slightly. "About Mother. She wants to see us." Victoria Sterling had pleaded guilty to fraud and embezzlement. She was currently serving time in a minimum security facility in Connecticut. They hadn't visited. Not once. "We don't have to go," Liam said immediately. He reached out and took her hand. His grip was firm, reassuring. "We don't owe her anything, Jaina. Not even a goodbye." "I know," she said. "But I think I want to. Just once. To close the book." The prison visiting room was stark and grey, a sharp contrast to the gold-leafed drawing room where Victoria used to hold court. When she walked in, wearing a beige jumpsuit, she looked smaller. The terrifying Ice Queen had melted into a bitter, aging woman. She sat down behind the plexiglass. She didn't look at Liam. She looked at Jaina. "You look well," she said, her voice raspy. "I am well," Jaina replied. "And the children?" She struggled with the word. "They are happy, they are loved, and they don't know who you are," Jaina said. "We decided it was best. Maybe when they're older we'll explain. But for now, you're just a cautionary tale." Victoria flinched. "I did it for the family, Liam. You know that. I did it to save the legacy." "No, Mother," Liam spoke up, his voice calm and cold. "You did it for the image. You sacrificed your son, your grandchildren, and your integrity for an image. The legacy isn't the money, it's them." He pulled out a photo of the triplets from his pocket and pressed it against the glass. "This is the legacy you threw away." Victoria looked at the photo. For a second, her mask slipped. Jaina saw regret. Deep, painful regret. But then, the bitterness returned. "You'll fail," she sneered. "You're soft, Liam. You need a killer instinct to run Sterling Industries. Without me, the sharks will eat you alive." Liam smiled. It was the smile of a man who was finally free. "Actually, Mother, profits are up 12%. We pivoted. Jaina had a brilliant idea to shift our manufacturing to sustainable tech. The market loves it. It turns out, running a company with ethics is actually quite profitable." He stood up. "Goodbye, Victoria." "Liam, wait!" she cried out as he turned away. He didn't stop. He walked to the door, held it open for Jaina, and they walked out into the bright, crisp autumn air. They didn't speak until they got back to the car. "You okay?" she asked. Liam let out a long breath, watching the prison walls recede in the rearview mirror. "Yeah. I think I finally am." He turned to her. The engine was idling. The air between them shifted. It wasn't about the kids, or the company, or the past. It was about them. "Jaina," he said softly, "I know I said I would wait. I know I said I just wanted to be a dad. But? She raised an eyebrow. "But I miss my best friend. I miss the woman who used to eat Thai food with me at 2 a.m. and dream about the future. I know I broke that future, but I want to build a new one." He reached into his pocket. Her heart skipped a beat. Was he proposing? He pulled out a fortune cookie wrapper. Jaina laughed. "What is that?" "I saved it," he said, smoothing out the crinkled paper on the dashboard. From our first date, 10 years ago. You don't remember? She looked closely. The faded red ink read, "Great luck awaits those who are patient." "I've been patient," Liam said. "I've done the work. I'm not the boy you married. I'm the man who wants to earn you." He looked at her with those intense blue eyes, the same eyes that Leo, Sam, and Maya looked at her with every day. "Dinner?" he asked. "Tonight. Just us. I got a babysitter. A highly background-checked, security-cleared babysitter." She looked at him. She thought about the pain, the betrayal, and the anger. But then she thought about the redemption. She thought about the way he looked at their children. She thought about the man who had just walked away from his mother to stand by her side. Forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was the ultimate power move. "Okay," she said, a smile spreading across her face. "But if you talk about the board meeting, I'm leaving." "Deal," he grinned. He leaned across the console and kissed her. It wasn't a desperate kiss or a hungry one. It was a promise. As they drove away, back toward the city, back toward their chaotic, beautiful, messy life, she realized something. Victoria wanted to humiliate her. She wanted to show the world Gina was nothing. Instead, she gave her everything. She gave her the fight. She gave her the children. And in the end, she gave her the version of Liam she never wanted her to have, the one who was truly a good man. Gina checked her reflection in the mirror. The emerald green dress was hanging in the back of her closet, wrapped in plastic. She didn't need it anymore. She didn't need armor. She had won. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Gina Bennett turned a nightmare wedding into a fairy tale ending. She didn't just get revenge, she got a whole new life. It just goes to show that sometimes the best way to handle your enemies isn't to fight them. It's to let them destroy themselves while you sit back and watch the show. What a journey. From the invitation in the mail to the showdown in the prison visitor room, Gina proved that dignity and truth always win in the end, eventually. Thank you so much for watching this story. I have to know, what would you have done in Gina's shoes? Would you have taken Liam back, or was that one betrayal too many? I'm really torn on this one. Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow so I can bring you more crazy stories like this one. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when the next drama drops. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.